The handshake that changed a life. The orbital station above Karachi shimmered like a silver ring against the blue curve of Earth, and inside it Arman Qureshi stood in a simple engineer's suit, his hands shaking not from fear but from disbelief that he had been chosen for this moment. The arrival of the first Aurith ambassador from beyond the Veil line had drawn every news ship and politician, yet the ambassador had requested a human of no rank to greet her. And somehow Arman fit the description. He was ordinary, quiet, and honest. Maybe that was why they picked him. The docking bay was filled with warm light as the alien ship unfolded like petals of glass. The air shimmered, the heat mild, the silence deep, and then she stepped out. Tall, radiant, her body a blend of light and liquid crystal, her eyes like small suns that blinked slowly. She had no mouth yet. Her voice came clear through the translator. She said, "I am Salai of the Aurith, and I bring peace." Everyone bowed, but Arman had been told to perform the human gesture of greeting a handshake, so he stepped forward, heart hammering, and extended his hand. Salai looked at it, tilting her head as though studying a strange device, then nodded softly. She reached out her hand. Looked like clear, water, solid and soft at once when their palms met. There was a pulse of warmth, not electric, not painful, but deep. A surge that rolled up Arman's arm and into his chest, and for one instant he saw stars moving behind his eyes and felt a whisper. That was not sound. Salai drew back, gasping light flickering through her veins. She said in alarm, "The bond has formed." And every alien and human in the room froze. Medical officers rushed forward. Scanners blinked and clicked. Salai's glow dimmed. "To a pale silver," she whispered again. "Your intent was pure, your greeting was honest. I did not shield my core, we are bound." Arman blinked, trying to understand what that meant. He looked at his hand. A faint golden spark shimmered at the center of his palm. It pulsed once, twice, then steadied like a heartbeat. He asked, "What do you mean, bound?" But Salai only looked down with something that seemed like fear or awe, and said, "The seed has anchored." The chamber filled with noise, humans shouting, aliens murmuring, the translator struggling to keep up. Salai stepped closer to Arman, placing her hand just above his heart. "Do not be afraid," she said. "Your body is strong. It will carry the light until it becomes flesh. I did not mean this, but what is done cannot be undone. Your kind greets with trust. My kind creates through it, and together they have made life." The human officials argued, some calling for quarantine, others demanding separation. Arman stood silent, the spark in his hand warm and steady. He felt no pain, just a strange peace, as if something inside him understood that whatever had happened, it was not wrong. He looked at Salai and said quietly, "What happens now?" She answered, "You will bear a life, a child of both our kinds, one who carries the memory of this meeting. If you choose it, and if you reject it, the light will fade and be lost forever." Arman looked at the glowing palm, then back at her eyes, and thought of the years of division wars, headlines full of fear, and he felt something. Simple, he could not explain. He said, "Then I choose to keep it." Salai bowed low, her light brightening again. "Then I will stay and guide you," she said, "until the birth and beyond." That night Arman lay in the medbay, unable to sleep. Machines hummed around him, the city lights far below shimmered like dust. And he thought about how strange it was that a single handshake could change the fate of two species he had always believed humanity would reach the stars through technology or war. Not through kindness, yet here he was, carrying proof that trust itself had power. In the morning doctors scanned him but found no harm. The glow in his palm remained steady, like a small sun. They tried to contain it with energy fields. It slipped through every barrier. When they asked Salai how long until it emerged, she said softly, "One rotation of your world and all will change." The station press was already buzzing, calling him the accidental father of the new age. Some mocked him, some worshipped him, but Arman ignored the noise. He watched the glow and spoke to it quietly, as if it could hear him, telling it about Earth, about rain and laughter, and how humans always find a way. Salai visited often, sitting beside him. Her light soft and calm, she taught him about her world, where children were born from shared purpose, not from bodies alone. She said the Aurith believed that the universe itself wanted to see different souls touch, Because creation begins with understanding, not dominance, and that was why the handshake had power. It was a promise. Armin listened and said, "Maybe our worlds are not so different, we just forgot that simple truth." Hours before dawn, he felt the warmth spread from his palm to his chest. Then his whole body bathed in. Gentle light alarms went off, doctors rushed in. Selai raised her hand, telling them to wait. "This is not danger," she said, "this is life." The glow gathered in front of him, floating like mist, then formed a small shape, a child of light and flesh with tiny hands and eyes like twin suns. The med bay fell silent. The child opened its mouth and cried, not with sound, but with a note that shimmered in the air, pure and soft. Selai knelt, whispering, "The bond is complete. Arman, you are now father of the bridge." Minderman looked down at the tiny being resting against his chest and smiled quietly. No fear in his face, only awe. He said then, "Hello, little star." And the child looked at him and spoke its first clear word, "Father." The station shook with applause. Some cried, some prayed, but Armin only held the small life, close feeling the steady pulse against his heart. He did not know what the future would bring, war, peace, or wonder, but in that moment, he knew one truth. Humans could create light, not just machines, and that maybe the galaxy would never be the same again. Birth in a day morning came to the orbital station in a wash of golden light, as the Earth turned below and the blue rim of atmosphere glowed through the windows. Armin sat in the medical wing holding little star wrapped in a silver cloth, the small being's light pulsing like a living sun around his fingers. The human doctors moved carefully, their voices hushed. They had never seen anything like it. No blood, no umbilical cords, no mess of birth, just a new life that had formed from light and intent and now breathed in slow, peaceful rhythm. Selai, the Orth ambassador, stood beside him, her glow steady, but her face full of mixed emotions. Wonder, fear, pride, and guilt, she said. Softly, "Your people will not understand. They will think it a trick or a weapon." Armin looked up and answered, "Maybe, but it is a child, and that is what matters." News of the event spread faster than any fleet could fly by the second hour. Every screen on the station carried the headline, "Human engineer becomes father to hybrid life." Earth's government sent demands for containment, while Orth clerics sent prayers and questions. Captain Noor, head of station security, came to the med bay in her black uniform, her tone calm but sharp. She looked from Armand to the glowing infant and said, "We have to think of security. The child could be dangerous." Armand kept his voice quiet. "If it were dangerous, I think we would already know." Noor sighed, the light from Little Star's body reflected in her eyes like fireflies. "We have orders from the Council of Nations. The child must be examined at length by both human and Orth science divisions until we are sure it is stable." Selai raised her hand, a ripple of light sweeping through the air. "No," she said sharply. "Orth law forbids separation of a newborn from its bonded guardian. The lifelink can collapse, the child and the host both could fade." Noor frowned and folded her arms. "So we are supposed to trust alien magic?" Then Armin stepped between them, his voice steady. "We trust the child. I will not let anyone lock it away." Noor held his gaze for a long moment before sighing again. "Fine," she said. "But the child stays under observation, and if anything changes, you tell me first. I am not your enemy." Armin just nodded. As the day passed, Armin watched Little Star grow before his eyes. Literally, the being's small hands lengthened. Its eyes deepened from pure light to golden brown. It began to make small noises like humming, and every sound caused a flicker in the room. Instruments would react to it softly. The child reached out and touched Armin's cheek, and when it did, he saw images, not visions but feelings. A rush of warmth, belonging, curiosity, and an echo of his own heartbeat inside that tiny glow. Selai smiled and said, "It learns fast. It sees through emotion, not through words. Our young grow by reflecting what they feel from those who raise them. Yours feels only kindness." Armand looked down at the child and said, "Then it will grow strong." In the following hours, they were flooded with officials. Scientists, soldiers, priests, all demanding samples, readings, access. Arman refused every request, until Noor stepped in. She ordered everyone to give him space. She said if the ambassador supports his guardianship, then the station will follow protocol. Selai gave Noor a respectful nod. Your people surprise me. Captain Noor replied, only when they have to, ambassador. Later in the evening, Arman was alone with Selai and Little Star. The room quiet except for the hum of air filters. Arman leaned back on his bed, looking out through the wide glass window at Earth, the continents shining with light chains. He said softly, I never thought I would be anyone's father, not like this, not because of politics or accident. Selai replied in her calm, melodic voice. It was not accident, it was intent. She touched his palm where the faint mark still glowed. You meant peace. You reached out without fear. That is creation, not mistake. Arman smiled faintly, maybe, but I am an engineer, not a prophet. I fix old solar arrays and broken valves, and now half the galaxy wants me to explain life. Selai looked at him with gentle amusement. Perhaps that is why it chose you. You fix things that others abandoned. The second night fell. Alarms sounded in the outer ring. Crowds had gathered outside the medbay, shouting, some in support, waving banners saying, Father of two worlds, others in fear, calling him cursed and demanding the child's removal. Noor deployed her teams, but tension kept rising. Selai stepped forward, glowing brighter, until her voice carried through the walls. She said to the crowd, We came, not to conquer but to share. And now you see the proof, a life that belongs to both sides. Yet the sound outside did not fade, only grew louder. Arman looked at her and said, You can't reason with panic. She answered, Then we protect what we must inside the medbay. The child stirred the light around it, shifting from gold to pale blue. It began to cry, not with tears, but with soundless vibrations that made the walls tremble. Instruments flickered, and the pressure in the room rose. Arman quickly reached for it, whispering, Hey, it's okay, it's all right. He held the small being close to his chest, humming softly a tune from his childhood. The vibrations eased and the glow settled down again. Selai watched in awe, saying, It responds only to you. Its bond is true. Noor entered just then, breathless. The riot outside has calmed, she said, confused. They just stopped chanting. Arman kept rocking the child, the melody still in the air. Selai smiled. The child is learning harmony, she said, its emotions echo through the structure like song. When it feels safe, others feel peace. Noor looked at the sleeping infant. Maybe that is the first miracle. By midnight, Little Star had grown again, now the size of a human toddler, its body soft and faintly translucent, yet solid enough to hold. It reached for Selai's hand and then for Arman's, and when both took it, the room filled with a calm golden haze. Selai whispered, It accepts us both as parents. She hesitated, then said, This has never happened in Arith. History, two species sharing the same bond. Arman laughed softly. Then we are breaking records left and right. He said, Maybe that's humanity's real talent. We keep breaking what others think is impossible. Selai nodded. Yes, she said, and sometimes that is how light finds new paths outside the medbay window. Earth rotated slowly beneath them, and millions watched the broadcast of the strange glowing child held in a human's arms. Some feared what it meant. Others hoped, but Arman did not care about the noise. He felt the small heartbeat against his chest. Steady and bright, he whispered to Little Star, Sleep, my child. We have a long world to teach tomorrow. Selai stood by the window, her gaze distant, as if hearing the whispers of her own people across the stars, and she said quietly so that only Arman could hear, They will come for you soon. The temple, the politicians, the curious and the cruel, they will all want to claim what was born today. Arman looked at her and answered then, Let them come, I will be here, and I will not give up my child. And she looked at him, her light soft as dawn, and said, Then you are more than human, Arman. You are already a father of worlds. And the night closed around them, gentle and vast and full of the unknown, waiting beyond the stars' tug of war. The next morning began with a strange quiet over the orbital station, as if the entire place was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. Arman woke with Little Star asleep against his chest, the child now the size of a small human boy, its body warm and glowing faintly gold. The hum of machinery outside the med bay was softer than usual, and Selai stood near the window. Her arms folded, her glow dimmed. She looked worried in a way Armin had not seen before. He asked, "What is it?" and she said, "They are coming." Armin, not the press, not the council. The temple of Arith itself, the clerics are on their way. And their leader is Prelate Vek. He is old and cunning, and he will claim that the child belongs to his order, not to you. Before Armin could answer, alarms sounded through the hallways. Captain Noor entered with 2 guards, her face tight. She said, "A diplomatic cruiser has just entered the perimeter. Its credentials are high level. They demand audience with Ambassador Selai, and with the human guardian, that means you." Armin nodded slowly. He looked at Little Star, who stirred at the sound, the child's bright eyes blinking open. In calm curiosity, he whispered, "Stay with me. No matter what happens, we stay together." The chamber where the meeting took place was vast and cold, half metal, half crystal to match both species. Prelate Vek was already there. A tall figure in dark, shimmering robes, his body like Selai's made of. Light but harder, colder, his eyes deep red that flickered with judgment. He bowed only slightly toward Selai, and not at all toward Armin. He said in a voice that carried without effort, "You have committed an act against sacred code. Ambassador, your bond with a foreign species has produced a being of prophecy, a bridge mind, and according to our law, such a being belongs to the temple for guidance and protection." Armin stepped forward, anger tightening his voice. "You mean control, not protection." Vek turned his gaze on him as though looking through him, mortal human. He said, "You do not understand the power you cradle. That child could reshape minds across the network. It must be raised with discipline, not sentiment." Selai's glow brightened. As she replied, "The child's creation was not planned, and no law covers this. Armin and I share guardianship by right of bond. It was formed in peace." Vek's voice sharpened. "Then peace will be the end of us. This mix of flesh and light is an abomination to both our kinds." Nor cut in, saying, "The Council of Nations will decide any claim on earthborn beings. Until then, the child stays under our protection." Vek turned to her and smiled in a way that was not kind, and he said then, "Perhaps your council will enjoy the technology and power the temple can offer in trade. Human ambition is a simple thing." Armin clenched his fists, but Selai touched his arm quietly, a reminder to stay calm. That night, as the debate dragged on, the child wandered from the medbay to the viewing deck, following the pull of earth below. Armin found him sitting near the glass Little Star, looked out at the lights of Karachi far below, and said softly, "They look like stars fallen to ground." Armin sat beside him and nodded. "Those are homes, my home, and maybe yours too." The child turned its glowing face toward him and asked, "Am I wrong to be alive?" Armin felt his throat tighten, and he said, "Never. You are what happens when 2 people reach for understanding that can never be wrong." The child smiled, and the glass reflected gold around them. The next day, Vek made his move. He filed a legal motion under interspecies protocol, claiming the child as Arith property, and sent agents to the lower decks under guise of escort duty. They came at dawn armed with silent shock lances. Selai sensed them first, her body flaring bright. She warned Armin through a mental pulse, "They are coming for him. Run now." Armin grabbed Little Star and sprinted down the hall, alarms blaring. Noor met them halfway and shouted, "This way. I can buy you time." They raced through maintenance tunnels, the sound of boots echoing behind. Selai stayed behind at the junction, confronting the intruders, her voice a sharp melody of command. "You are breaking." The Treaty Vex men did not answer. They raised their weapons, beams of pale blue light cutting the air. Selai raised her hands and light exploded outward. Blinding white, the metal walls melted into glass and the agents fell back. Armin heard the blast behind and wanted to go back, but Noor pushed him forward, shouting, "If you stop now, they will take him. You have to go." They reached the shuttle bay where an old transport waited. Armin carried Little Star close to his chest, the child whispering, "Softly, I can make them stop." But Armin said no. "Never use your power to harm. We will find another way." The shuttle's engines roared to life. Selai appeared at the ramp, her light flickering and weak, but her eyes steady. She said, "Go to Earth, the temple. Cannot act openly there. You will be safer and I will join you when I can. Armin hesitated, but she pushed him toward the controls. Go now, human father, protect our child. The shuttle launched through the docking ring, flames trailing behind as pursuit. Ships tried to follow Noor's fleet, cut across their path, blocking the attackers long enough for Armin to dive into atmosphere. The friction fire painted the sky red. The child pressed against the window, whispering in awe. Clouds below mountains, shining oceans wide and endless. Armin smiled even in fear. It was still beautiful. They landed near the old coast of Karachi, where the tides touched the edges of the new solar farms. People gathered quickly, curious, but not afraid. They had seen the news already. Some offered shelter, food, even toys for the glowing child. Armin thanked them, but kept his distance, knowing that safety was temporary. Selai had warned him that the temple's reach was long. For the first time, Little Star walked on earth, barefoot over sand, his light reflecting on the waves. He laughed, a sound like wind chimes, and for a moment, Armin forgot the fear. He lifted the child onto his shoulders, pointing at the horizon. That's your home, he said. Both of them, the child, touched his face and said, then we will protect it together. Night fell and they found shelter in a small fisherman's house. An old man offered them tea without question, saying only every parent needs rest. Armin smiled and accepted. After little, Star fell asleep, glowing softly beside the lamp. Armin stepped outside to the porch, looking at the stars above, and whispered, Selai, wherever you are, keep yourself safe. Far above in orbit, Selai watched the small blue world turning beneath her. She stood before Prelate Vec again, her body still weakened from the fight. He said, You protect them well for now, but you cannot hide the truth forever. Selai replied, Perhaps not, but perhaps truth will protect itself for once, and her light flared again. Bright and defiant, back on Earth, Armin looked down at his sleeping child, the glow painting warm patterns on the walls. He knew this peace would not last. The temple would come again, others would come too. But he also knew something stronger than fear had begun here on this small planet. And in his heart he made a promise no one would ever take Little Star from him or decide who they should be together. They would show the galaxy what it meant to be human and to care. And maybe that would be enough to change everything. Trial by council. The morning light spilled over Karachi in long ribbons across the rooftops as Armin carried Little Star carefully down the stone steps from the fisherman's shelter. The child's small hand rested in his and glowed faintly like a candle in the dawn. The city was waking around them, vendors calling their goods, students hurrying to classes. But Armin felt as though the entire world held its breath, waiting for what was to come. Captain Noor met them at the edge of the council building, a tall structure of glass and steel that gleamed like a beacon. She motioned them forward quietly. You will have your chance to speak, she said, and she meant every word. Inside the council chamber, delegates from both human nations and Orith observers filled the benches. The room was circular and high above their heads. The ceiling reflected soft images of Earth and stars beyond the orbit. Through the transparent panels, Armin felt the weight of every eye on him, the murmurs of debate like low wind passing through the hall, and Little Star clung to him, whispering, Father, I am afraid. Armin stopped and knelt slowly so their eyes met. I am here, my child, and we will face them together. The glow of the child brightened a little, as if understanding the reassurance. Prelate Vec rose from his seat at the elevated dais, robes shimmering and eyes sharp. He spoke without pause. This child is not a human infant. It is a bridge mind, a convergence of species and purpose, and therefore it must be claimed and raised under temple guidance so that its immense potential is not squandered. The murmurs in the chamber rose, and some delegates nodded. Humans whispered quietly among themselves, some fearful of breaking law or alien code. Armin's stomach tightened, but he straightened and raised his voice firmly. I am the father of this child, not by law or by chance, but by bond. The child and I are linked in ways you cannot claim. To understand its well-being depends on trust, love, and guidance, not confinement or obedience. It belongs to those who care for it, and that is us. Selai stepped forward, her glow steady, her voice clear to all members of the council. This child was not planned nor created for power. It was born from intent and honesty, and the human before you has proven he is worthy of guardianship. The chamber grew silent for a moment as her words settled. Then Vex's eyes flashed with anger. "This is defiance," he said, "and it is dangerous. The child's energy is beyond your understanding. If you continue to interfere, you risk collapse of control protocols that maintain harmony among species." Armand looked at Little Star, who raised a small glowing hand toward the dais. It was not a threat, only a greeting. The council gasped at the purity of the gesture. Then Armand said, "See, it does not wish harm, it seeks recognition and connection." Only Vex's eyes narrowed, but even he paused. Captain Noor spoke next. Her voice calm, authoritative. "Earth law must protect its own citizens, and guardianship lies with those who raise and nurture a child until explicit claim is made." She looked at Armand and Little Star. "This temporary custody will remain in place under observation, and I expect cooperation from all delegates." Selai nodded and whispered, "Thank you," quietly, while Little Star hummed softly, the sound like a chord resonating through the chamber. Vex was not done. His voice rose sharper. "This is unacceptable. The child could be used as a weapon or tool of diplomacy against Orith interests. The Council cannot permit this." Armand shook his head firmly and said, "No one will use this child as a weapon. It is not a tool of politics or power. It is a life, and it will be raised in peace. Let that be clear." The murmurs rose again. Some humans clapped quietly. Others remained tense. The Orith delegates whispered among themselves. A few looked worried. Selai stepped closer to Armand, placing her hand over his heart, and said, "It is enough. For now the bond is strong and will withstand their claims." The council decided to perform a test of the child's abilities and temperament. Little Star's glowing hands were raised towards small floating orbs placed by Orith scientists. The child's gaze focused, and the orbs aligned themselves in a pattern only the child could create. The chamber watched in awe as a silent melody of light and motion unfolded. The child's energy spread across the room, not threatening anyone but filling the air with calm and harmony. Vex's face darkened. "The child is powerful," he said, "and it will be mine." Armand's jaw tightened and Selai whispered, "Now you will see the truth of intent." Then came the test of memory and control. The council projected holographic illusions designed to provoke fear or pain. Armand held Little Star close and guided the child through the images. Each scenario replayed, moments the child had never lived yet. It felt them and acknowledged them calmly. Little hums and glows, soothing the visions away as if telling them it would not be broken by fear or manipulation. Vex stepped forward and tried to interfere. The child turned a gaze of golden warmth toward him, and the illusions faltered. Vex's fury erupted. His hands raised. To command the chamber to stop, the child's light intensified to match his anger. A wave of color and vibration filled the room. Then Mira, a medic from the station, quietly stepped in. Presenting evidence, Vex had forged documents claiming human laboratories were attempting to manipulate the child for secret experiments. The council examined the proof, and murmurs of doubt rose. Vex's schemes were laid bare. His plan to seize the child under false pretenses exposed. Armand felt a surge of relief and whispered, "Little Star, you see, the truth protects itself." The child hummed softly in response, as if acknowledging the statement. The council deliberated for hours, finally granting temporary guardianship to Armand with Selai as cultural guide and protector. The ruling was clear: no one could interfere without both guardians' consent. Yet Vex's glare followed them as they left the chamber. He whispered a threat in the shadows. "The child will be mine. If law fails, I will claim it by force." Armand heard, and felt the weight of it settle like stone in his chest. He looked at Little Star and whispered, "We will not let that happen." The child reached out, glowing hand in his, as if promising the same. Back in the shelter on the coast, they prepared for the days ahead. Little Star explored the sand, glowing faintly, tracing patterns that looked like constellations. Armand watched and thought about the council and the power that wanted to control his child, and he made a promise to himself and to Little Star that no force in the galaxy would decide their bond. Only they could decide what was right. Selai observed quietly, her light steady in the darkening sky. Together they formed a small circle of strength, the bond of parent and child, the bond of human and Orith, and in that quiet before night fell, Armin understood that sometimes courage is not fighting, but holding steady, and showing love in defiance of power, and that the galaxy would watch as a human chose to protect life above all else, and that this was only the beginning of the struggle that would define them all. Run we build. We stand. The sky over Karachi was streaked with the last light of dusk as Arman led Little Star through narrow alleys and across rooftops that still bore the scars of old storms and forgotten conflicts. The child's glow pulsed softly, lighting their path like a small sun in the fading day. Captain Noor followed at a distance, watching every shadow and listening for the faint hum of distant engines. Arman had promised the child they would be safe, and now every step brought them closer to a place that could hide them for a while. An old sea platform far enough from the city to escape notice, yet close enough to see the lights of home in the distance. The platform was a relic of another age. Rusting metal beams and worn solar panels half submerged in water. When they arrived, the waves lapped gently around its supports. The smell of salt and oil mingled in the air. Armin looked at the child, whose small hands reached out to touch the rough metal, the glow reflecting off the waves. Little Star whispered, "Father, it is beautiful in its own way." Armin smiled. "Yes, my child, we can make it into a home if we are clever enough," and Selai hovered beside them, her form luminous against the darkening sky. "We must work quickly," she said. "The temple will not wait long to act." Armin rolled up his sleeves and began to assess the platform. He found areas of solid structure, old storage rooms, and spaces where they could live and teach the child. He looked at Little Star, who was already glowing brighter with excitement. "You will help me make this safe," he said. The child nodded, a faint golden light filling the air with warmth. Arman started to gather scrap metal, old solar wiring, floating barrels and nets, anything that could be used to fortify the platform. He worked alongside Selai, who manipulated materials with Orith precision bending beams and sealing leaks with streams of light that hardened into metal. Over the next few hours, they turned the platform into a fortress in miniature walls raised around the edges with spiked fences, recycled energy shields powered by old solar arrays, and a small living space filled with sleeping mats and basic supplies. Little Star's light intertwined with Selai's, guiding the flow of materials. And at one point the child reached out and touched Armin's chest, a soft glow passing between them as though saying, "Thank you, Father, your hands build not just shelters but courage and hope." Neighbors from the nearby coast began to notice, and curiosity turned into aid. Old fishermen brought food, fresh water, and blankets. They were cautious but impressed by the courage of the human father and the strange glowing child, who was calm and playful, yet full of a presence that commanded respect. Armin thanked them quietly, telling them we must stay hidden. They nodded, understanding that sometimes help was quiet and brave while others remained away, giving them space. Vec did not wait to learn of their location. He sent a small fleet to blockade the platform and jam communications, cutting off the outside world from reaching them. The sky above glowed with distant ships, the hum of engines threatening, and relentless Selai hovered near Little Star, keeping the child close, teaching control over the glow and energy, so that if needed, the child could form protective shields that would not harm anyone, but could deflect attention. Armin watched and marveled at the child's ability to learn quickly, their mind sharp and light, flowing with intent. Armin worked with scrap and old engineering manuals, improvising alarm systems and trap mechanisms in case the temple attempted a landing. He showed Little Star how to channel a small portion of the glow to detect vibrations and movement through the floorboards, teaching restraint and responsibility. The child's small voice said, "Father, I can sense them coming." Arman nodded. "Good, my child. We must always know our limits and use our strengths wisely." As night fell, they lit small fires for warmth, the waves lapping gently against the platform. Little Star played with floating orbs of light. Armin smiled, seeing the joy and innocence despite the danger around them. He knew that the child needed both protection and normalcy. Selai floated nearby, whispering reminders of the Orith laws and traditions so the child would understand both worlds. Armin listened closely and said, We will teach you both because you are neither just human nor just Aurith, you are both, and we will stand together. The next morning they began reinforcing defenses, stronger shields powered by old solar panels and energy reflectors that could bounce light to blind sensors and scanners. Armin realized that sometimes ingenuity was all a human had, and sometimes it was enough Little Star learned to harmonize the glow with the panels, creating a rhythm that could disorient approaching sensors without harming them. Selai watched carefully. Impressed at the human creativity, she said, "You are clever." Armin replied, "Only because my child inspires me." Vex ships appeared on the horizon, distant at first, then closer. Each day they watched the platform, probing for weaknesses, sending scouts and small teams in disguised shuttles. But Armin's preparations and Little Star's abilities made every attempt fail. They could see the frustration growing in the distant command silhouettes moving with anger. The child asked, "Father, will they take me?" Armin shook his head. "Never, we are strong together. They will not touch what we protect with honesty and courage." Days passed in this routine of work, play, and vigilance. The platform transformed from a rusting relic into a small shining beacon of human ingenuity and Aurith guidance. Little Star learned to stabilize shields with a touch and to control light with focus, while Armin taught tools, wiring, and improvisation. They built small wind turbines from scrap floating barrels to generate energy, and floating gardens in containers growing herbs and vegetables, so they could remain self-sufficient even if surrounded neighbors brought supplies quietly and observed. From a distance, some children visited, bringing paint and decorations, leaving stars on walls and beams, a celebration of hope. Armin felt pride mixed with caution. Each glow of the child a reminder that what they held was precious and fragile. The platform became a symbol of defiance, a place where a human father and his child could stand against the reach of a powerful and ancient temple. Late one night, Selai hovered over the platform, waves sparkling beneath her body of light. She whispered, "Armin, the next assault will not be gentle, they will come with force." He nodded and held Little Star close, telling the child, "We will face it together no matter the cost." The child's small hand glowed softly, pressing against his chest as if promising they would endure. And Armin looked out over the horizon, the distant lights of ships reflecting in the water, and whispered quietly, "Maybe courage and unity can outshine even the oldest power." And he knew then that whatever came, they had built more than walls. They had built hope, a human and a child who was both human and Aurith, and a luminous promise that they would stand together, even when the galaxy tried to tear them apart. Dawn of the bridge mind. The first light of morning spilled across the sea platform and danced on the waves as Armin woke to the gentle hum of Little Star's glow. The child had already risen and floated lightly along the edges of the structure. Exploring every nook and cranny, Armin watched quietly, a sense of pride swelling in his chest, knowing that every day the child learned more and grew stronger in both understanding and control. Selai hovered nearby, her body shimmering softly in the rising sun. She spoke quietly, "Armin, the next challenge will come. Soon Prelate Vec is patient and cunning. He will not allow the child to remain hidden forever." Armin nodded, his hands tightening around the child's small glowing fingers. "We will be ready," he whispered. The child turned toward him, eyes bright. "Father, I feel them coming. They are thinking of ways to reach us." Armin smiled faintly. "Yes, my child, and we will show them that strength does not come from weapons alone. It comes from courage and understanding together." They moved through the platform, reinforcing barriers, running simulations of approaches and escape routes, while the waves lapped against the rusty supports, the hum of the sea blending with the low vibration of Little Star's light. By mid-morning, distant shapes appeared on the horizon. Vex fleet, small agile cruisers probing the perimeter. Armin activated the shields. They glimmered softly like rippling water, deflecting the distant scanning pulses. Selai hovered near the child, teaching control and restraint. "Do not act unless necessary," she whispered. The child nodded, concentrating energy into patterns of soft light that spread like a net across the platform. Every movement precise. Calm, measured, the waves reflected their glow, creating a shimmering dome that concealed them partially. From sensors, Armin gathered supplies and whispered, "Father, we may have to confront them directly soon." He felt the weight of responsibility, heavy but steady. and Little Star looked up at him. Small glowing hands pressed to his chest. "We will do it." Together, Armin smiled. "That is right, my child, together we are stronger than fear." He glanced at the horizon where the first scout ship attempted approach. The shields pulsed in response, deflecting sensors and warning signals at the same time. "Captain," Noor's voice came over comms, steady and calm. "Armin, I see them preparing to land. Be ready for anything." Armin replied, acknowledging her orders and guiding Little Star through drills. They moved strategically, reinforcing defenses while teaching the child to harmonize its glow with the structure, strengthening the platform with the energy of focus and intention. Waves of light pulsing outward like a heartbeat. Every movement controlled, measured, and precise. The first assault came not as fire but as a test drone skimming the surface of the water, scouting for weakness. Little Star raised glowing hands and projected a soft dome. The drones faltered, hovered, then retreated to report failure. Armin watched silently, proud and relieved. Then came the larger ships, heavy cruisers cutting across the horizon, engines humming ominously. Armin called Little Star to his side. "Now, my child, it is time to show what we have learned together." They moved to the control deck. He guided the child's hands over panels and conduits, letting the glow pulse through wiring and energy channels, amplifying shields and reflectors in ways that even the scouts had not anticipated. The fleet's sensors scrambled. Vec's voice came over a secure channel, mocking and angry. Yet he could not breach the defenses. Armin took a deep breath and said, "Father and child, we must act now. It is time to meet them." He guided Little Star into a small shuttle attached to the platform's underbelly. A vessel barely large enough for two, but perfectly suited for maneuvering through the narrow channels. The child's glow filled the cabin, pulsing in time with the engines. Armin whispered, "Steady, my child," and the shuttle launched toward the lead cruiser, weaving. Through light and shadow, the fleet fired warning beams and disruptors, but every movement countered by Little Star's energy and the strategic positioning Armin had plotted. The shuttle approached the lead ship, its size immense compared to the small vessel, yet they moved with precision. Little Star extended hands, projecting a calm aura that disrupted targeting systems, giving them a clear path. Armin guided them closer. The docking bay opened, and a single platform extended. He knew this would be a direct confrontation, a chance to face Vec himself. He whispered, "We can do this together." And the child's glow brightened in understanding, confidence and trust, flowing between them. Docking with the cruiser was tense and deliberate. Armin and Little Star entered the chamber where Vec stood, robes shimmering, red eyes blazing. He looked down at them and sneered, "A human and a child. Dare enter my ship, you have no right here." Armin stepped forward, steady Little Star close at his side. "We have every right to protect our child and ourselves. We will not yield to fear or force." The child's glow pulsed softly but firmly, filling the chamber with calm. Vec snarled and extended hands, projecting fear energy to overwhelm them, yet the child raised hands, harmonizing with Armin's own presence, and the energy dissipated. The chamber trembled but did not break. Armin spoke clearly and loudly for all to hear. "We do not seek war, we seek protection and peace." The child's glow expanded in tandem, echoing his words, a visual song of intent and honesty. Vec faltered. Taken aback by the bond and strength of unity, he had underestimated the power of a human parent and a child who was both human and Aurith. He snarled again, but the energy they projected left him unable to act further. Armin moved closer, offering a hand in the traditional Aurith handshake, a gesture of truth. Vec hesitated. The room hushed. The glow of the child brightened, and the handshake revealed the depth of intent, honesty, and refusal of domination. Vec's power wavered, and the fleet outside paused, uncertain what command to follow. Captain Noor's ships began moving into position at the perimeter, securing the fleet and reinforcing the blockade. Against any other attackers, the combined presence of human strategy and Little Star's unique energy forced Vec to recognize the limits of his approach. Armin held the child close and whispered, "This is our strength. My child, together we can face anyone." And the child hummed softly, a sound like resonating light, affirming the promise and their unity. Vec backed down. Finally, his voice low and grudging, "You are strong together. The child is yours for now. But do not think this ends here. Armin nodded quietly, knowing he had not only protected Little Star but shown the galaxy what courage, partnership, and trust could accomplish. He turned to the child and said, "See what you can do when you remain calm and focused, when you act together, when you are guided by love." And the child smiled, glowing softly, its light reflecting hope and power through the chamber and beyond the stars. The first dawn of the bridge mind had arrived, and Armin knew that no force in the galaxy could undo what they had created together. Family is a treaty. The sky over Karachi glowed faintly from the rising sun waves lapping softly against the supports of the sea platform as Armin stood at the edge holding Little Star. Close the child's glow pulsing faintly. In rhythm with his own heartbeat, they had survived the last assault, the blockades, and the direct confrontation with Prelate Vec, and now the world felt fragile and full of possibility. Silai hovered beside them, her luminous form steady and calm. She whispered Armin, "This is the moment where everything changes. The temple will test us once more. But you have proven what humans and Orith can do together." Armin looked down at Little Star, small hands pressing against his chest. "Father," he said, softly, "I am ready." Armin smiled. "Yes. My child, together we have faced storms and fleets now. We face the final decision." The horizon shimmered with distant ships, some arriving in support of their claim, others neutral observers who had watched and waited for proof of the child's stability and intent. Captain Noor's fleet approached from the edges, securing the waters and providing a perimeter, while back on Earth, the Council of Nations broadcasted the events, live a mixture of awe and anxiety spreading through the population. Armin breathed deeply, feeling the weight of responsibility heavier than ever yet, steady with resolve. The first move came from Vec, who emerged from his flagship aboard the platform. He sent a small boarding team determined to seize the child forcefully. His eyes met Armin's in a glare that burned with obsession and entitlement. Armin tightened his grip on Little Star. "We do not yield," he whispered. The child's glow brightened, affirming the promise, and radiating a shield that shimmered outward, warning the boarders they could not approach without being halted. The intruders faltered, realizing that every action they attempted was countered by the energy and harmony emanating from the father, and Child Armin stepped forward. The first wave stopped by the glow's intensity. He looked at Vec and said, "This ends now. No force can claim what we protect by love, by bond, by trust." The prelate's voice was sharp with anger and pride, but even he hesitated in the presence of such unity. Silai's glow intensified, guiding the child in alignment with Armin's intent. The waves of energy spread like sunlight through mist, illuminating the platform and the water surrounding it. The boarding team retreated confused and disoriented, realizing the futility of their attack. Then Captain Noor moved her fleet into position, signaling support for Armin's guardianship. They formed a protective ring around the platform. Vec's fleet faltered, unsure how to respond to a human parent and child who could project both intention and energy, combined with disciplined tactics. Armin guided Little Star to focus the glow not as a weapon, but as a barrier and signal of peace that radiated outward, so all could see the child's purpose was not conquest but protection and growth. Armin and Little Star moved to the center of the platform together, and Silai joined them, linking their hands in the Orith handshake of truth. The combined energy formed a resonance visible across the platform, and the nearby water's waves of golden and silver light pulsing outward like a heartbeat. The boarding team watched frozen as the connection conveyed intent and honesty through the aura. The prelate stepped back, his face unreadable. He realized that no law could enforce his will against a bond so pure and so strong. Armin raised his voice and said, "Let this be known across both human and Orith worlds. This child belongs to those who love, and protect it, not to anyone who seeks power over it." The child's glow expanded in response, echoing the words with warmth and authority. The council observers transmitted live images of the light across communication networks. The world watched, transfixed, seeing a new understanding of strength and guardianship forming before their eyes. Vec made a final attempt, sending a warning pulse toward the platform intending to intimidate Arman and the child. But the energy emitted from their bond neutralized, the pulse redirecting it harmlessly into the water. The prelate fell back, realizing that resistance was futile. The boarding team surrendered, and Captain Noor moved to secure them, ensuring no further harm could come. Arman looked down at Little Star and whispered together, "We have done it," and the child's soft glow pulsed with understanding, a song of quiet triumph. Silai stepped forward, her hand on Arman's shoulder. "The treaty is formed," she said. "The first of its kind guardianship by family before state or species bond before law. The child has shown that protection and love define parentage, not decree or force." The prelate's face remained tense, but he nodded finally, a reluctant recognition forming in his eyes. The council, observers confirmed the treaty with signatures and broadcasted across human and Orith channels, ensuring that the child's guardianship was legally recognized and culturally respected. Arman held Little Star close, feeling the weight of responsibility, eased just enough to let a smile appear. The child laughed softly, glowing brighter now in pure joy. "This is our family." "My child," he whispered. "Our family is stronger than any law or fleet." The child reached out and touched Selai's hand, linking the three of them in a circle of unity and trust, a luminous bond that no one could break, and Arman felt hope expand within him, knowing that their courage had not only protected their family, but shown the galaxy a new way to honor life. As evening fell, they stood together on the platform, looking at the distant lights of Karachi reflected in the water, below the city alive with energy and movement, the stars above twinkling like witnesses to what had occurred. Arman spoke quietly to the child. "See what we can do together, what humans and Orith can create when we act with love and intent." Little Star glowed warmly and whispered, "Father, we are strong together," and the words carried across the water into the night. Silai hovered close, her voice soft. "The galaxy will remember this day," she said. "A human chose to protect a life above all else, and in doing so created a bridge between worlds." Arman nodded and looked at the horizon, feeling the weight of the day lift slightly. The platform no longer felt like a relic, but a symbol, a beacon of courage, ingenuity, and unity. His child safe and recognized, and a family formed by bond rather than fear. The first bridge mind of two worlds had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Arman smiled, watching Little Star chase reflections of the setting sun across the water, his heart full of hope, pride, and certainty. For the first time since the beginning, he felt truly unafraid, knowing that family and unity could withstand any threat, and together they would face whatever came next. The light of their bond shining across the night, a promise to every world that humans protect life, and that love and courage are stronger than any law or force.